welcome back. You are watching That Car Chick, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do MIG welding. Okay, so what actually is MIG welding? MIG welding, otherwise known as metal inert gas welding, is a type of welding that uses a constant voltage power supply to be able to create an arc that fuses together the base metal with the filler metal that is constantly coming out of the welding torch. Now, the inert gas part is for the gas that also comes out through the welding torch, which acts as a protective layer around the welding pool to protect it from any atmospheric contamination. MIG welding is generally used for heavier metals, as MIG welding is a more powerful type of welding. It also requires minimum finishing and cleaning, so it is a perfect sort of weld to use if you don't care too much about how it's going to look in the end, because it isn't the most attractive weld. Now, the way that the two metals actually melt together and weld, it creates an arc between the electrode and the bit of metal to the point it is very hot. It's almost like as hot as the surface of the sun or something crazy like that, and it acts as the heater source and melts the wire electrode and the base metal together, creating a weld pool. And then of course it cools down very quickly to then create a solid metal. So do not go touching it right after you've welded it, because you will get like, what is there a higher than a 3rd degree burn? Whatever that is, you'll get that. Okay, so now that we've got some really quick basics out of the way, it's time to go back to the workshop. Wait. Before we go back to the workshop, I just want to say, please do not try this at home if you do not know how to weld, because it can lead to serious injuries, and also the gas from MIG welding isn't also the best for your health, so it can also cause lung damage if you don't weld in a ventilated area, big open area. Never weld inside a closed shut area. Always make sure you're wearing your welding mask, because otherwise you will get arc eye, and that, I've never had arc eye, but I've heard that arc eye is literally the most painful thing your eye can experience. It's like the sun was right next to you, just like staring into the sun. That's basically what it is. Wear a welding mask that is appropriate and actually works, and some welding masks you can like adjust the intensity and the sensitivity and things like that. So unless you have the right equipment, and unless you have protection, and unless you know what you're doing, and unless you're in an open space, please do not try this at home. I don't want little Johnny down the road welding his finger to a piece of metal and then coming to blame me. Not my fault. I said do not try this at home if you don't know what you're doing. And with that bit of legal protection, whatever it's called, bit out of the way, it's time to go back to the workshop. So of course, to do any sort of welding, first of all, you want bits of metal, personal protective equipment, of course, as always. This includes gloves and the welding mask that I've left somewhere. And of course, you're also going to want a welding mask as well as some vinyl gloves. You're also going to want specific welding gloves. These are normally thick fabric or leather gloves to protect you from the heat that the welding torch is going to be putting out. Okay, so what you're going to want to do before you start any sort of welding work is to clean up your metal. As I said previously, if there are contaminants on the metal, because obviously to weld the metals together, you need to have a good arc surface. If there isn't a good arc surface, it won't weld or it will look terrible. So I am using a grinder with a flat wheel on it, which is basically a bunch of little bits of sandpaper to make this sanding process of metal easier. You can also just use normal sandpaper, or you could actually use a grinding wheel, but sandpaper is your best bet for sanding down metal to have a good clean surface. And as you can see, once you have sanded it down, it should be something shiny like this. That's how you know you've got clean metal. Okay, and once you've got your two clean bits of metal, it should look nice and shiny like this. Then you know it is ready to start being welded. Of course, this is where your welding mask comes on, so make sure you have one that is working. And if you want to test it, you can just test it against any light and it should dim. Adjust that, because that is not going to fit my tiny head. You are also going to want welding gloves at this point. And I know they may seem like the most uncomfortable thing in the world. They are, but health and safety first. You don't want to be burning your hands. So also don't be going and touching the metal afterwards, unless you want like 5th degree burns. Okay, so on your welding machine, you're going to have two key bits that you want to worry about, which is this earth clamp here, and of course the welding torch. Now, to actually be able to weld, you want to create a circuit. So what happens when you weld is you arc these two together and basically create a short circuit to be able to create such a high heat and high resistance to melt the metal that comes out of here to the metal here. If you did have a metal table, you would just be able to clamp it to the table like this, whereas I have a wooden table here. So what you want to do is clamp it to the actual thing that you're welding. When holding a welding torch, you ideally want to hold it with two hands where you can. This is where the gloves actually come in really handy, as again, it protects your hands from the heat. Using two hands will also give you more control, so you have more control of your weld pool and you can make it look nice. Now, you don't want to be holding your welding torch too close or touching the metal. This is because the welding torch will then end up welding itself to the metal. You don't want that. But you also don't want to hold it too far away, because remember when I was telling you about the protective gases that come out of the welding torch as well, where it won't actually be able to make a protective layer around where you're welding, and then your weld will just look terrible and again just look like bird poo. So you ideally want to hold it about this sort of distance away, and you want to hold it at roughly a 45-degree angle. Again, not vertically up but not too flat, controlling where you're going. One hand, of course, on the gas. And when you're ready, put your clamp on an earth point to create the circuit, and away we go. Set your welding machine to how much wire and how quickly you want the wire to come out, and then gentle motions just from side to side as you're going down like this, nice and slow, to be able to create the weld pool. Also, do not hold it for too long in one place, because if you do hold it for too long in one place, it will burn a hole through the metal. And just a nice side to side motion. There we go. You've created a weld. And one more time, nice clean bit of welding area. Hold the torch at a 45-degree angle and just nice and gentle side to side. Nice continuous motion. And you've got yourself a weld. Now, to know that you've actually welded a bit of metal, as you can see here, you've got a nice little glow, and you can see actually where the metal has actually welded together with the weld pool from the other side. But this is what the weld should actually look like from the other side, and how you will know that the weld has actually gone through. So, same principle applies when you're welding two bits of metal together. You want to hold the torch right here at the base. Nice, steady motion as you're going down, side to side, making sure not to hold on one spot for too long, not to blow any holes, and just keep it a consistent motion to be able to create a nice weld pool. Side to side, nice, consistent motion, and you've created a weld. And again, if we look at the other side of the metal, again, you can see on the other side of the metal here, where the welds have actually joined together. And now, that is one solid bit of metal that you have now welded together, and that is not going anywhere. Solid bit of metal that isn't going to come apart, and you just created your first weld. I would just like to add, I am not a professional welder of any sort. I have actually only been in the trade for like 2.5 years. So I am still teaching myself how to weld, because welding is actually a skill that can come in really handy and is unfortunately a dying skill. So if you do want to learn it, please go ahead. I know there's probably going to be haters on this video like, oh, you can't weld. Well, are these two bits of metal together? They are, so I'm pretty sure I can weld. Yes, it doesn't look like Jesus Christ just did a poop, you know, on this bit of metal, but I don't know where that saying came from, but I just made it up. Don't ask me where I just came up with that. But I know it doesn't look like I've been welding for 20 years, because I haven't. But you know what? I've joined these two bits of metal together, and you can too. I'm telling you right now, the best way to practice welding is just to do it. You don't need no qualifications. Don't let someone sell you a £2,500 course that I definitely didn't almost buy. Don't let anyone get you down. Keep doing what you're doing, and don't let someone sell you a £2,500 course, because you can just find scrap bits of metal, buy yourself a welding machine, and do it at home. And there you go. You can now take these horrible sweaty gloves off, because you are done. Remember to always turn off your machine as well. Please do not leave it running, and always disconnect the gas once you are done. And there you have it. You have welded two bits of metal together. I hope you enjoy now going to practice on your own, and I hope you found this video entertaining at least, or at least useful. Like I say, if you just use the correct welding technique, practice makes perfect. Your first weld is not going to be perfect, but this is just a beginner's guide on how to just weld two bits of metal, and I think I've done exactly that. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like down below, and if you do want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you can be the first to watch my videos. That is it for now though. Again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all next time, but for now, peace.